It was the kind of moment politicians dread and security teams prepare for but never quite expect to face. Just hours ago, the quiet residential street where Keir Starmer lives became the centre of Britain's political storm. Angry protesters gathered outside his home, chanting, filming, shouting demands that cut straight to the core of his leadership. Step down, step aside, listen. The footage spread overnight, fast and unforgiving, and by the time most of the country woke up, the story was already out of control. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. And to everyone already subscribed, thank you for the support. This week, Britain's simmering tensions spilled out of Parliament and onto the pavement. Police cordons appeared where neighbours usually walk their dogs. Vans rolled in. Officers tried to keep a line between protesters and the front door of the man tipped to lead the country. Phones were raised, live streams rolled, and the sense of anger was unmistakable. This wasn't a polite march in Westminster. This was personal, raw, and aimed directly at the Labour leader himself. Keir Starmer, usually measured to the point of stiffness, didn't look prepared for this. The images tell their own story. Tight expressions, security moving fast. A leader visibly rattled as chants echoed down the street. Within minutes, clips were everywhere. Group chats lit up, comment sections filled with fury, mockery, support, disbelief. Britain was watching a moment that felt like a line being crossed, whether you sympathise with the protesters or not. But none of this came out of thin air. The anger has been building for months, even years, and this week it finally found a target close enough to reach. The cost of living crisis hasn't loosened its grip. Rents are still climbing, especially in cities where wages haven't kept up. Mortgage holders are still staring at repayments that jumped overnight and never came back down. Energy bills might not dominate headlines like they did, but for millions they're still punishing. Food prices remain high enough to turn every supermarket trip into a quiet panic. And then there's the NHS, waiting lists stretching into years, staff burning out, patients stuck in limbo, ambulances queuing outside hospitals like it's normal. This week alone, more warnings surfaced from within the system, and people are tired of hearing that solutions are coming soon. Soon doesn't help when you're in pain now. The protesters outside Starmer's home weren't just angry about one issue. That's the part Westminster keeps missing. This wasn't a single-cause crowd. It was renters standing next to nurses, young workers locked out of housing marching alongside parents drowning in childcare costs. People who pay their taxes on time watching government spending debates feel completely detached from their reality. And in their eyes, Starmer has become a symbol of that disconnect. Yesterday, his attempts to strike a calm tone only seemed to make things worse. Carefully chosen words about responsibility and order landed badly when replayed against footage of ordinary people shouting themselves hoarse outside his door. Online, the reaction was brutal. Some accused him of hiding behind security while families go unprotected from economic chaos. Others warned that turning up at a politician's home is a dangerous escalation. Both things can be true at once, and that tension is exactly what makes this moment so explosive. Inside Parliament, the response was immediate and ugly. Political blame games kicked off within hours. Conservatives pointed fingers at Labour, accusing Starmer of fueling unrest with vague promises and tough talk that never quite turns into action. Labour figures hit back, arguing the protests are the result of years of government failure and broken trust. But even within Labour ranks, there was unease. Not everyone was comfortable seeing the leader's home become a focal point of national anger, and not everyone was convinced his handling of the fallout was strong enough. This is the risk of trying to be everything to everyone. Starmer has spent years reshaping Labour's image, moving carefully, distancing himself from chaos, presenting a steady alternative to Conservative turmoil. It worked on paper, it worked in polls, but it also created expectations. When people finally snap, they don't want steady. They want decisive. They want someone who looks like they feel the urgency they're living with every day. The migration debate added fuel to the fire. Protests across the country this week weren't limited to economics. Housing shortages, pressure on local services, and fears about community resources have become tangled together, especially in areas already struggling. Councils are overwhelmed. Temporary accommodation costs are soaring. People waiting years for social housing watch hotels fill up and feel ignored. Politicians talk about systems and policy. People talk about fairness. Social media turned the scene outside Starmer's home into a battlefield. Some called it unacceptable intimidation. Others called it accountability finally knocking at the door. Memes spread faster than facts. Short clips stripped of context did what they always do, pushing emotions to the edge. By midnight, Starmer Lost It was trending, not because of a single outburst, but because viewers sensed something cracking under the surface. Internationally, the images didn't go unnoticed. Britain prides itself on stability, on orderly politics, on protests that stay in their lanes. Scenes of a major opposition leader's home becoming a flashpoint feed a very different narrative. A country still struggling to regain balance after Brexit, after the pandemic, after years of political churn. Allies watch closely. Markets pay attention. Confidence is fragile, and moments like this don't help. For ordinary people, though, the politics of it almost feel secondary. What matters is the feeling that nobody at the top truly understands the pressure at the bottom. Workers see strikes dismissed as inconvenience while their pay falls behind inflation. Renters hear lectures about patience while landlords raise prices without blinking. Taxpayers listen to endless debates about billions while counting coins for the bus. This week, that frustration found a face and an address. Just hours after the protest dispersed, questions hung heavy in the air. Is this what politics in Britain looks like now? Has trust eroded so far that the boundary between public accountability and personal space is breaking down? And what does it say about leadership when anger feels closer than hope? For Keir Starmer, this could be a turning point. Moments like this don't fade quietly. They harden opinions. Supporters rally or drift away. Critics grow louder. Every word he says now will be replayed, slowed down, analysed for weakness or strength. The next election may still be ahead, but the emotional campaign is already raging in real time. There's also a wider warning here for everyone in power. When people feel unheard for long enough, they stop waiting for invitations to speak. They show up. They film. They shout. They make themselves impossible to ignore. You can condemn the method, but the message doesn't disappear just because it's uncomfortable. As the street outside Starmer's home returned to quiet, the noise online only grew louder. Britain woke up to a question it can't avoid anymore. Are we watching the release of pressure or the beginning of something much more unstable? Can leaders reconnect with lives they increasingly seem distant from, or has the gap grown too wide? Because this wasn't just about one man, one house, or one night. It was about a country straining at its limits, testing how far frustration can go before something gives. And the answer to that question will shape what comes next. So what do you make of it? Was this a line that should never have been crossed, or a sign that people feel they have nowhere else to turn? Is Keir Starmer still in control of the moment, or did this week expose a deeper problem for British politics as a whole? Share your thoughts below, pass this on to someone who's been feeling the pressure too. And stay with us, because if this moment tells us anything, it's that the next chapter of UK politics is already being written in the streets.